This is a great time after kind of the hustle and bustle of the holiday season and the end of the year. A lot of people slow down a little bit, January, February. So it's always a nice time to kind of reset. And so today's presentation, we're actually going to talk about how to create health goals that you can actually implement and see real results. Before I get started, I just want to point your attention to the chat. I uploaded a SMART Goals worksheet, and we'll talk through that towards the end of the presentation. I'll try to share my screen and show you what it looks like if you can't take a peek at it now. But it'll be a worksheet that might be able to help you as you start to create goals and as you start to put some of the information that we talk about today into action. So first off, we'll start talking about, health goals, why they are important, different types of health goals. Then we'll get into how to create a SMART goal, like what that is and how that is different than a regular goal or a goal that a resolution or something like that you may have been thinking of up until this point. Or maybe you didn't even realize SMART goals were a way to achieve health goals, as a lot of people may be more familiar with them in a professional setting. And then we will walk through step by step how to create a SMART goal for health. And then we'll talk a little bit about the brainstorming aspect of that at the end. So if you are able to open the handout in the chat, feel free to kind of follow along as we talk through the presentation. Okay, so first of all, why create health goals? So with pretty much anything, creating a goal kind of helps you to see where you want to go. And then it can also help you to see where you are along the way. And if your goal is, achieving sort of the end result that you're looking for, or if you maybe need to pivot your focus a little bit. But by creating goals, you're definitely going to prioritize your health. It can also help to spur motivation. So if you can kind of see it in writing or have something to work towards, that is motivation to help keep you going. It also helps you to make you feel as if the change is actually possible. A lot of the times, especially when we're thinking about our health, if you're thinking about, decreasing your A1C or maybe losing weight or being more active, some of those things, in a general term like that can just seem so overwhelming. So creating specific and measurable goals can definitely help you see that the change is actually possible. And then also with goals, you can see your progress. So if you're keeping track of what you're doing, you'll be able to see the progress that you're making along the way to your end goal. So what are health goals and how are they kind of different from other goals? So when I really think about health, I kind of think about four main pillars of health. And these four pillars sort of encompass everything about body and mind. Because the body and the mind go hand in hand when we're thinking about our health. Our physical health is just as important as our mental health and vice versa. And so creating goals around the four pillars of health can help to create a more holistic approach, or it can also help you to achieve a healthy body and mind by focusing on one area. You may notice that it kind of has a domino effect on the other areas. So the four pillars of health are movement or exercise, nutrition, stress management, and sleep quality. And so kind of what we'll talk about as we get going through the presentation is when you start to think through your own health goals, where do you want to start? Maybe you want to start on the pillar that may be the most impactful for you, or maybe you want to start with the one that's the easiest, kind of that low-hanging fruit, so that you can kind of get your confidence up as you reach those goals. But whichever way you decide to start, what you'll notice is by focusing on one area at a time, you might see progress in some of the other areas. So for instance, let's take movement, exercise. So maybe your goal this year is to increase how much you're exercising, or to create an exercise plan for yourself. So what you may notice is as you incorporate more exercise or movement through your week, you might notice that your sleep starts to improve because you're tiring your body out more. As your sleep improves, you might notice that you're able to manage stress a little bit easier because you're getting better sleep. As your stress management becomes a little bit more easy to manage, or your stress becomes easier to manage, you may find it easier to start planning nutritious meals or snacks for yourself. So that's just as an example, and it's circular, so it kind of doesn't really matter which pillar you start with. But you will most likely notice that you can have that sort of domino effect. And I think, well, I'll talk about this throughout today's presentation. It's always better to start small and build yourself up. And so trying to create health goals around all 4 pillars at one time might be overwhelming. But we'll talk about how to manage your progress. And as you're managing your progress and as you're seeing improvement, then it might be easier to kind of pepper in some of these other goals around some of the other pillars of health. So kind of think about, now while we're talking through the presentation, maybe think about which area is going to help you the most in your overarching health goals. Like I said, maybe your overarching health goal is to get your A1C down. Maybe your overarching goal is to lose weight, or maybe your overarching goal is to, create better boundaries between, your work life and your personal life. So whatever that is, can you kind of think through where you may want to start? And so we were thinking about creating health goals to develop better habits. Healthy habits actually create healthy bodies. So you have to create those healthy habits and stick with them so that you can have your healthy body. And then also the health goals can help lead you to a lifestyle change, but it shouldn't completely change your identity. So the 3 types of health goals, you might have physical health goals, which would include, nutrition and movement. Some goals related to your physical well-being might be, they might include, your physical health. It could be including more strength training in your routine, walking for 30 minutes a day. Maybe it's including more vegetables or high fiber foods every day. Mental health goals would be goals that are related to your mental well-being. This could be a wide range of things. So some SMART goals for your mental health might be strategies to create better sleep habits, or creating a self-care routine, or creating that work-life boundary. And all of those are extremely important. It's not just about our physical health, it's also about our mental health as well. And then the last type of health goal would be social health. And this could be related to your relationships, family, friends, coworkers even. And some of those SMART goals may be to be a better listener, or to learn to set boundaries in some of your relationships. Or maybe your goals this year are to develop more meaningful friendships. Maybe you're the type of person who needs connection. And, maybe that's something that you've kind of not cultivated over the last couple years. And maybe you've noticed that not having those meaningful relationships has really taken a toll on your health. So again, wherever you feel like the best place to start, that's certainly a personal decision and up to you. And so again, we want to create or highlight the 4 pillars of health. And so the movement and exercise, creating an exercise routine, or maybe increasing what you're doing already. Nutrition is extremely important to our health as well, and especially if you are managing diabetes, nutrition does play a vital role. And so maybe creating better food habits, nutrition habits, incorporating more fruits and vegetables or more foods that are going to, have a positive impact on your A1C. Maybe that's your goal. Sleep quality, though, can actually be a goal that a lot of people don't really think about. I think for most people, the big goals, health goals, when they think of it, are exercise and nutrition. But sleep quality can also be impactful. If you're not getting good sleep, you might not have the energy to manage that exercise goal. And if you're not getting good sleep, maybe you don't have the clarity, or maybe you're feeling too tired to figure out how to meal plan properly and those types of things. And stress management, I feel like, kind of goes along with the sleep quality too. If you're not managing your stress well, you may notice that you don't have energy, or you just don't feel like you're not feeling motivated to move or to properly plan your meals. So your key considerations for change. So it's important to, we'll talk through this in a minute when we go through our SMART goals worksheet. It's important to kind of understand where you are in the process of change. Are you ready to change now, or are you just thinking about a change? Like maybe you understand that something needs to happen, but you're not quite ready to make a change. So you want to definitely kind of figure out where you are on a readiness scale. You'd want to rate your scale from 1 to 10. So as you're thinking about a goal, maybe it's exercise, for instance. So maybe you want to incorporate more exercise into your week. Well, how ready are you to make that change? Are you feeling ready on a scale from 1 to 10? Maybe you're feeling a 7 and that's your motivation. And I feel like that's a good number. Or maybe you're ready to change, or you feel like you're ready to make that change, but you're just really stuck on how to do that. So maybe your readiness is only about a 3. So figuring out exactly where you are on that scale can definitely help shape your motivation, but also give you a realistic insight as to how impactful the change is actually going to be, and if you can actually make that happen. So if you're like a 5 or below, then you probably want to think about what would it take to be more ready, and what can you do to help sustain your motivation? So these are things that you definitely want to consider as you're writing or brainstorming through your goals. The next thing to really consider is your need for support. So who can you rely on to support your efforts? If it is, an exercise goal, do you have friends that will exercise with you, a walking buddy, someone at work who'll go on a lunch break stroll with you, or is it joining a class and making sure you're staying accountable through people who are in the class with you? It's also just as important to think about who may hinder your efforts. And then definitely ask for what you need. And so maybe that's emotional support, or maybe that is asking for a workout partner to help you. Kind of going back to who might hinder your efforts. A lot of the times, if you're in a relationship, and it may not necessarily be, a domestic partner or spouse or something like that. Maybe it's a friend or a coworker who isn't quite on the same readiness scale as you are. There could be situations where someone, and it may not even be on purpose, but if they're not quite on the same readiness scale as you are, you might notice that they say or do things that can diminish what you're doing, or even sabotage your efforts. So you want to think through, are there people like that around you, and how are you going to handle that situation to make sure that you stay on top of your goal? And then the growth mindset, staying positive. The best laid plans often go awry. And even if you have your goals written out and you're ready to go and the motivation is a 10, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, these last 2 days, we've been hunkered down inside here in the metro area, too cold or too icy to kind of go outside. So, if your goal was to walk or run a couple of days during the week, Mother Nature did its thing and maybe you couldn't do that. Okay, it's fine. Then you just pivot and we figure out how to pivot. Changing how you think, staying positive is one thing. Keeping your eye on the prize kind of thing. Understanding when to pivot your goal, but also keeping the focus on how you're doing and the progress that you're doing, versus just keeping your eye on that end prize. So if getting your A1C down is the main goal, and maybe your little SMART goal along the way is to increase exercise, but over the last couple of weeks with the weather, you haven't been able to do what you need to do, kind of thinking about what else could you do inside, or how could you pivot your plan, and thinking about staying on top of your progress versus giving up because it didn't work out the way you had planned it. Like committing to the effort, not just the outcome. Okay, so now we'll get into the SMART goal. I'll just take a brief pause here to see if anyone has any questions before I move on to the SMART goal, to what the SMART goals are and how to create them. Feel free to put something in the chat if you need to. Okay. So some of you may be familiar with the term SMART goals. Like I said, when I first started kind of a few years ago, started working with clients or patients or whatever in health coaching about creating goals, SMART goals to me was something that I had done professionally in my professional progress. And so I thought it was interesting to take that same idea and terminology, and then, really you can apply that to any goal. And I think it is a great way to approach a health goal. The S in SMART stands for specific. And I'll tell you, the biggest reason why people don't reach their goals or don't stick to their goals is because they're not specific enough. They're too vague. So this might be the most important aspect of creating a health goal. You need it to be as specific as possible. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. The goal needs to be concrete and tangible. It also needs to be measurable. The goal needs to have an objective, and you need to be able to measure the success, an objective measure of success. And so the goal itself needs to be measurable, because you need to be able to track your progress. If you're not tracking your progress, how do you know if what you're doing is making a difference? The goal also needs to be attainable. It should be a little challenging, but achievable with available resources. So that's why, kind of looking back at that previous slide, it's important to kind of see what do you have available to you. The exercise goal, for instance, maybe you can't make it to a gym or a fitness center. So what do you have at home? Or maybe you work at home during the day, and exercising at home doesn't sound appealing to you because you're there all day. So, what do you have available to you? The same with kind of meal planning. What do you have available to you? Do you have things in your kitchen? Do you have resources to get the food that you want in your goals? Those types of things. And also with the attainable, or I guess this could be under the realistic as well. Like I mentioned before, I always think it's a better idea to start small, and to, maybe start with a couple days a week or 3 days a week. Start small with whatever your goal is going to be. and give yourself room to grow in your goal. The other thing with starting small is it makes it a little bit more realistic, and it kind of gives you confidence, because once you realize that you can do this small goal, then adding a little bit on down the road doesn't feel so overwhelming, because that's the thing. We want our SMART goals to be attainable and realistic and not overwhelming. And then timely. Your goal has to have a deadline or timeline for progress and for milestones. You need to be able to stop and assess every few weeks or months to see what your progress is and if it's making a difference. And at that point, do you need to pivot your goal if you're not able to meet your goal on most days? Or if it seems like it's easy now, then maybe it's time to progress your goal. Okay, so here we'll kind of put all of that into action. So the goals that I hear most often kind of start like the vague goal over here. I will be more active in the new year, or I will bring down my A1C. That is super vague, and it's a great goal, of course. And so in my mind, I see that as like your overarching goal. You want to be more active in the new year. Okay, how are you going to be more active in the new year? And what are you going to do to be more active in the new year? So those are the things that you need to think about. I want to bring my A1C down. Okay, how are you going to bring your A1C down, and what are you going to do to bring your A1C down, and how much do you want to bring your A1C down? Those types of things are what you need to think about to get yourself to that very specific and measurable and realistic goal. Okay, so turning this vague goal of I will be more active in the new year into a SMART goal would look like this. I will walk at a moderate pace for 30 minutes, 4 days a week for the next 3 months. Okay, so breaking that down, you can see that is a lot more specific than I will be more active in the new year. Walking at even, being specific about the pace that you're going to walk is good here. You don't necessarily need to do that in your own goals, but like I said, being as specific as possible can help to really keep you accountable. So specific, walking at a moderate pace is definitely more specific than stating you're going to be generally more active. And then the measurable part is that you'll walk for 30 minutes, 4 days a week for 3 months. And so again, I think it's better to give yourself a goal where it's a few days a week versus every day, because for most people, doing anything every single day, other than maybe brushing your teeth, it could be impossible. And you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment or for failure. So start yourself small. And then maybe after a few weeks, you realize, 4 days a week is nothing. I'm going to add 5 or 6 days a week, or 30 minutes is nothing. I'm going to add 45 minutes or an hour 4 days a week. So, starting small and building up, like I mentioned, kind of gives you that confidence, but also make sure that you're at a good starting point to keep growing. Attainable, you're choosing a specific pace that fits your fitness level, but also gives you room to improve. And you're creating realistic time and frequency to make it attainable. The realistic, fitting in 30 minutes, 4 days a week. And, 30 minutes, 4 days a week doesn't necessarily have to be one chunk of time, 30 minutes. Maybe it's 10 minutes 3 times during the day, whatever works for you. But just thinking about what is actually realistic for you in your day. And then the timely is giving yourself 3 months to reassess. So after 3 months, how is your goal working? Does it seem like you want to keep going at this rate and pace? Or does it seem like it's a good time to maybe add another day or add more minutes? And this is where you would adjust your goal as needed. Or maybe it's not working at all, and maybe 3 days is better. Whatever, you can adjust up or down. But the idea is, if you were not walking at all last year and your goal was to be more active in the new year, and now you're walking 3 or 4 days a week, you're achieving your goal. Okay, so now we've kind of talked a little bit about, or I think I mentioned before about brainstorming. So you definitely want to kind of brainstorm the areas that you'd like to improve. So where do you want to improve? Do you want to start with thinking through the pillars of health? Do you know that you want to maybe eat more vegetables or eat less processed foods or learn to say no more, or maybe create a bedtime routine? And then the next thing is to identify potential blockers and create solutions for those blockers. So potential blockers for, adding vegetables or decreasing your processed foods. Maybe it's, I don't have time to meal plan. I don't have time to cook. Learning to say no. Maybe it's, I don't want to let people down. Or maybe creating a bedtime routine. Your potential blocker is, after everyone is asleep, that's the only time you get to yourself and you just want to do what you want to do. So let's talk through what that looks like to think through your potential blockers and create solutions around that. So I'm going to go through 2 SMART goals in these next 2 slides, and we can talk about what this part looks like in terms of identifying your potential blockers and creating your solutions. And then you'll see, then I'll open up the worksheet and we'll just, you'll see where it kind of relates to that. And then that'll give you a platform to maybe get started on creating your own goals. Okay. And let me know if I'm going too fast. Everyone is still good? Okay. So here's a goal in terms of meal planning, or maybe, adding more vegetables. The goal is I will meal plan for 3 dinners a week that will include half a plate of vegetables, a lean protein, and a whole grain, and I'll do this for 2 months. Okay, so that's a specific goal. 3 dinners a week seems okay, and I'm kind of basing this off, I guess, my own schedule. So I'm going to talk through it, in my own personal life. But hopefully you're able to see how you can kind of relate or how to think through your goals and what this process looks like for you. Now, so 3 dinners a week is doable. It's impossible in my house to plan dinners every single night because my family's schedule on some evenings are a little bit different. And so maybe some nights are leftovers or some nights are takeout. So planning 3 dinners a week, I'm going to start with that because that's doable for my family. So what is and I'll do it for 2 months and see how that works for us. Okay, so what are my action steps? Well, the first thing I want to do is download a meal planning app. This is going to help me to spark menu ideas, to get out of a rut, and to also stay organized. So my target day to do this action step, I'll start today. What are the potential blockers for this? I get overwhelmed with how many meal planning apps there actually are. And sometimes I can go down a rabbit hole trying to figure out what's the best app. And I want a free app. I don't want to pay for it. So the solution, maybe I'll Google an article for, let's say, the top 3 free meal planning apps. And maybe I'll start with whatever, the article suggests. And that's how I'll get past that blocker. Okay, so my next action step is that I'm going to set aside 15 minutes every Saturday morning to plan meals for the following week. My target date to start that will be this Saturday. What are the potential blockers for this one? Well, definitely forgetting to do this every week. If that's not something I'm doing already, and I can see myself, Saturday is a day, I don't have to get up and do my normal morning routine. I'm a little slower in the morning, so I can definitely see where I could forget to do this. And then Sunday, when I go grocery shopping, I'm just back to where I started with no list and just grabbing and then sort of making do in the middle of the grocery store. So what are the solutions for this? I'm going to create a reminder on my phone, and I'm going to actually put time on my calendar, and I'm going to block out 15 minutes on a Saturday morning to just sort of quickly run through my meal ideas and create a shopping list. And then my last action step for this goal would be to plan the meals on the weeknights that I know I'll have time to cook. So again, like I mentioned, there's a couple nights during the week where, my husband and I are running back and forth, getting our kids to where they need to be, or maybe we have things in the evening. And so I definitely want to plan. I don't want to set myself up to fail. So I want to plan the dinners that I'm going to cook or that we're going to cook on weeknights that I know we have time to do it. So what are the potential blockers? Well, feeling too tired to cook. So solutions for this would be choosing easier meals that are still veggie heavy and include a lean protein and a whole grain. And maybe using some convenience items like maybe frozen vegetables, or maybe vegetables that are already washed and pre-chopped. Maybe it's buying a rotisserie chicken and, adding things like that. So, maybe it's doing a Sam's pot pie, and then adding a fresh salad or something on the side. So, thinking through what's going to make this goal attainable would be the solution for that blocker. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. And I know it is time consuming, but it can actually be really helpful. So it would be, your time investment is going to be sort of on this front end of creating your goals and thinking through, along the way, what has the potential to derail you from your goal, and what are you going to do when you see that potential blocker or that blocker? So if you're thinking ahead about what can happen and what you're going to do, when it does happen, it makes it a lot easier to push through. And a lot of the times you may only have to do this section once, or this part of the goal setting once, because maybe this is the goal, after 2 months, I'm going to assess and see how well am I doing. It's working really well. So maybe I'll add a fourth night, or, maybe I need to tweak the goal. But you may not have to really sift through and do this whole brainstorming thing every single time you're assessing your goal. Okay, so we'll go through one more. So for this one, it's like, I'm going to turn off all electronics and get in bed by 10 p.m. 3 weeknights a week for the next 4 weeks. So this might be a challenging one for people who, know that they need to quit scrolling or get off their phones or get off their computer, stop working late, those types of things. But, it's hard to do that. So what are the action steps? Well, I'm going to shower and be ready for bed right after dinner. And what are the days I'm going to do this? Again, you want to pick days where you know that you can manage this. Maybe you wouldn't want to pick a night where you have a social engagement in the evening that usually runs a little late, or a night where you're having to take people places and things like that, or where you have a late meeting, these sorts of things. So pick days that it's going to make sense for your schedule. What are the potential blockers for this? Well, feeling like I need to do chores around the house. So the solution might be to have family or people living in your house, or having people help as much as possible before dinner, if that's possible. Another action step could be to keep all electronics downstairs when it's time to go to bed. So what are the potential blockers? Feeling like you might miss something important if you don't have your phone on you. And the solution might be to understand that the evening is my time. And if my family's home, then no one really needs to be in touch with me. Maybe it is buying an old-fashioned alarm clock. So you have an alarm and you don't need your phone to be your alarm. Something like that. And then last action step, I'll do 5 minutes of breathing exercises once I get in bed to settle my mind. The potential blockers, actually getting in bed. And again, I like alarms, reminders on my phone, calendar reminders, all those things. So maybe on these days that you're planning to put your goal into action, maybe it's setting an alarm for 9:55. And so, you have 5 minutes to remind yourself it's time for bed. Okay, let's see if I can share my screen. There is an option. Okay, wait, let me see. Oh, okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, can you see that?
Action plan.
Action plan, yeah. Okay, so this is what the handout looks like, and this could be helpful for you if as you're brainstorming and creating your goals. And it just kind of goes through what we have in a chart form, just to help yourself stay organized. So here you can create your goal, and like I said, maybe you can have, maybe this goal doesn't necessarily need to be your SMART goal. Maybe this is your overarching goal. Like, I want to bring my A1C down, 0.5 points or a 1 point. Maybe I want to exercise more in the new year. Maybe this is your overarching goal. And so then how are you going to measure your success? You're going to create your SMART goal related to whatever pillar of health. And then here you can kind of go through steps for achieving your goal. What are you going to do to bring your A1C down? You're going to increase your exercise. You're going to add more fiber foods. You're going to make sure that you take your medicine the way that you're supposed to and on time. Whatever you want to do to ensure that you can bring your A1C down. Then you can kind of put your time estimate here. How long do you think it's going to take you to do these things and your completion date? So maybe 6 months is a good time to kind of check in. Maybe 3 months is a good time to check in. And then down here is where you would put your obstacles that may arise and how you're going to respond. So these are your potential blockers and your solutions to that. And then what tools do you have, or what tools or resources do you need? Maybe it's what you already have on hand and what you can draw from, and then also thinking through what resources do you need. Maybe it's attending more WOW Wednesdays to make sure that you stay on top of all the different health topics. Maybe it's joining like a DSME class or diabetes education. Maybe it's joining an exercise class or a cooking class, something like that. And then here, the second page is where you will create your SMART goal. And it has it spelled out like the slide. What are you going to do? Why and why is it important? How will I measure my success? And how will I know when I've achieved my goal? What do I do to achieve the goal, and how will I accomplish it? Is the goal worthwhile, and how will achieving it help me? And does the goal fit my values and your lifestyle? And when will I accomplish my goal? How long will I give myself? And then you can take some notes. So this, you can definitely print as many of these at home or fill this in on your computer to maybe if you wanted to create more than one SMART goal, or if you wanted to focus on more than one pillar of health as it relates to your overall goal of, maybe bringing your A1C down. But I hope that this can be a helpful resource for you so that you are, so that you're able to create realistic goals. Okay, and now I think I'm sorry, Ashley. Now I lost the presentation. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we just have a couple more slides. I know we're getting close to time here. But writing your goals down will help immensely. 87% of people don't set goals, and those that do, 14% don't write them down. And of the 3% that 3% write down their goals, and those people are 3 times more successful than the people that just create goals in achieving their goals. So writing down your goals is essential. So write them down, whether it's a format like I just showed you on a worksheet, maybe it's an app, maybe it's just a journal or a notebook. And then stay flexible and adapt your goals as needed. I think that's important to have those short time frames to check in with your goals. So maybe it's 4 weeks, maybe it's 2 months, maybe it's 3 months, 6 months, but checking in to see where you are and where you need to make some changes. Keep your goals small and realistic to start. Focus on the progress, not the outcome. So keep your focus on what you're doing, because you're creating this habit and it's going to make a positive influence on your health. And it's, so maybe you, at the end of it, maybe you didn't reach a weight goal, for instance, but all through the year, you've increased your exercise, you've increased your fruits and vegetables, you've improved your sleep, you feel better, you just feel better. That might be more important than, actually reaching that number on the scale, because you created these habits that made a huge difference in your health, even though maybe you didn't reach that, weight goal, for instance. Check in with your goals often, and then create goals that are meaningful for you. It's a very personal process. And then 6 tips to succeed: network however you can. So whether it's attending seminars or webinars like this, maybe it's joining, classes, maybe it's enlisting friends to meal plan with you or to work out with you, and then have that growth mindset. Everything that you're doing, you're growing, you're bringing positivity into your health and your lifestyle. Keep your motivation high. And I think focusing on the progress rather than the outcome can really help to keep your motivation high. Hold yourself accountable. Lean on others for support. Accept failure, but learn to adapt. So if it turns out that maybe the goal was a little bigger than you could handle, accept failure. Maybe that's not necessarily failure. Maybe that is just, reaching a point where you need to understand you need to tweak the goal a little bit. And so kind of adapting to that. And then this is our last slide. Whatever your SMART goals are, what really matters is that you're working towards a balanced and healthy lifestyle. If you're not doing any exercise currently and you add, 3 days a week, that's unbelievable. You're going to notice a difference in your health. If you're not really eating any vegetables most days of the week, and now you're adding, a serving at 2 meals out of the day, that's huge. That's going to have a huge impact on creating a more healthy, balanced lifestyle. So like I said, focus on what you're doing, and keep your motivation positive, and just really think about how these small little changes are having huge impacts on you overall. So that's the end of our SMART goals presentation, and I'd love to open it up for questions if you guys have any questions. And Ashley has recorded this presentation, so I think it'll be on the YouTube channel, Ashley, right? So if you need to go back and look at anything as you're working through your worksheet or creating your goals, you should be able to find this on the Diabetes Association of Atlanta's YouTube channel.
If anyone missed it or had to leave early, or you have friends, family that would benefit from this presentation, just keep an eye out on our YouTube channel. will post it later today. And I mean, if you want the SMART goals worksheet is in the chat. That could be easily downloaded. But if there's like a specific slide or information that you want me to go back to so you can screenshot it or can download it, just let me know. I see that someone is typing. Let's see. Everyone's cooped up
I
today.
know. Can you hear my dog in the background? Oh.
It's fine. Everyone's just
I
cooped
know.
up, having to deal
Yeah.
with each other.
It's like COVID flashbacks. No, it's been good though.
Mhm. I see that someone is still typing, so, let's give them a minute, but yeah, if anyone, has any questions, any concerns, comments, oh, I don't know. Okay, Carolyn said, "Very good presentation, thank you. What are the apps that you use?" Linda?
The meal app that I use is it's called Meal Lime, Mealime. I'm trying to pull it up so I can show you the logo. But I can't remember where. Well, let me find it. Mealime is the app that I use for meal planning. They have a free version and a paid version. So with the paid version, you just get like kind of just different variety of recipes. But I like it because oh yeah, thank you. That's it right there in the chat. I like this one because you can filter the recipes by nutrients, by special types of diets, like if you're vegetarian or wanting to eat more vegetarian. Yes, the logo is a little green lime slice. And the other thing is that you can create a weekly menu or based on the recipes, and then it'll spit out a whole shopping list for you. And then it'll even tell you what cooking utensils you need. I really like the way the recipes are laid out. And then, my husband, he helps with the cooking and he doesn't have the app, but I can share the recipe. I can just text him the recipe and he can open that without having to have the app on his phone. So I think it's very user-friendly. I've been really happy with the recipes that I've found on the free version, but there is a paid version. I have a Google Watch with Fitbit, so I use that to track my fitness goals. The Apple version is a good way to do that as well. I'll be totally honest with you. I just use an old-fashioned notebook. I still like to kind of cross things out. So kind of my overarching goals, I actually write down in a notebook. But for meal planning and then kind of to keep track of like my day-to-day fitness, I'll use those types of apps. But I believe there are some kind of SMART goal apps out there, but I'm not as familiar with what that might be.
Okay, I see. Are there any more questions? Any comments? Give it a few more minutes, and then we can close this session. I do want to say thank you guys for joining in today. We're just getting back into the swing of things. Well, for us, the DAA, but I'm glad you guys are here. And thank you, Linda. Just like you guys have goals, we also have some goals that we want to reach this year. So please, if you have any comments, any opinions of how we can better cater these presentations to you, if there's something you are looking to learn specifically, just let us know. You can always email us at at diabetesatlanta.org. I can put it in the chat below, and you can just email us. Let us know what you want to see from us moving forward in regards to Wow Wednesday and DSMES. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with that, but our diabetes education course is we are in the pre-shadow of it, figuring out the logistics of it and schedules. So just keep an eye out on our social media if you're interested in, learning more on managing your diabetes. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We have Twitter. And what else? Yeah, and just follow our website. Everything should be under the handle of diabetes or Diabetes Atlanta. But yeah, if no one has any more questions, I think we can, end it here on a good note. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. We will see you guys next Wild Wednesday. Just keep an eye out, like I said, on our social medias newsletter to keep up to date. But thank you everyone. You guys are free to
Thank
go.
you.
We'll see you all next time.